right here and get into this particular vid right here. This actually goes with another video. Actually, I had caught a blurb of it at on this particular vid. This vid, I think I call it the Black German Princess and either Ethio-Saxon. I think I might want to use Negro-Saxon, to really describe, because we hear about anglo-saxon, but we really don't know about the so-called Negro-Saxons, right? Who were the Negro-Saxons? Well, they were the black originators, or the original black people, but really let's say it this way, the original black people of Europe. And we're not saying no Africans. See, a lot of times they use that when they find something in Europe that seems to be black, to say, oh, Africans. You don't even understand the disassociative racism that's used in what they call word play and word art. You don't even understand, even though it's right in front of you, that spells, right? Spells, real spells, right? Just like COINTELPRO is a kind of a spell, are done by word play, right? And the associative or the disassociative meanings that are used also in words. So I just wanted to show you this right here, because it was on this video. I think it was up at the top right here, where they have some companion kind of stories that we saw this news article a couple of days ago. We're just getting to post up the vid. Actually, I think now posting like 3 vids, and 2 of them are kind of addressing the subject matter of the black nobility and the original black people of Europe. Not African, but they were black people. You see, ones don't understand the associative or the disassociative terms. And I was watching a Matt Lauer, I think it was that Channel 4 NBC show, MSNBC show, Today Show or something like that. And they had Rachel Dolezale, right, on the show, on one of the interviews. And a lot of people say that, like so-called Piers Morgan, you want to talk about Anglo trash. England, one thing about England, they know how to throw away the trash. Unfortunately, like black folks, we don't recognize how to do that. And we're really being, once again, corralled and led astray by certain ones, especially in this lynching, right? I call it the lynching of Rachel Dolezale. Now, of course, folks are going to probably think like, this brother or this guy or this Rasta man or whatnot, he must have lost his mind. How is he going to say she's been lynched? I mean, she's white. You see, you don't even understand the paradigm. What is really behind this particular story, right? What is the real motivation? People are even crediting the media and saying that, oh, it's the media that exposed her. You don't understand what the media is there. It's the medium between you and the reality of the matrix that you are really in. So much so that y'all will ride on this story in every predictive programming. A lot of this is really predictive programming. Because, see, a lot of black folks, for example, she does this interview, right? She's doing this interview, and they ask her, are you an African-American, maybe African-American woman, but are you an African-American? And she says, like, she doesn't agree with that term. I think the next one, she says she doesn't understand the term. Well, many of us who are technically would be regarded as African, so-called Afrocan, so-called American, hyphenated American, we also reject that term too. If you really can rub 2 intellectual sense together, lawfully or legally speaking, and understand really status, you will also reject the term. I mean, after all, Obama, right? Obama had a white mama. He didn't have a black or a Negro or African American mama, but yet you will consider him to be the what? According to the same media, you will consider him to be the first African American president, or, then they'll say the first black American. What's the difference between the terms African American and black American? most N-words or so-called negroes or niggers, because that's the proper term for the majority, because they really don't know, like the song said, do you know where you're going to? Do you know the things that life is showing you? They don't understand what the things that life is showing you. Instead, they join the kind of media lynch mob about what this particular woman has done. And I don't really particularly agree with what she has done, but it's kind of interesting because it's almost like that picture of the snake swallowing its own tail, because really the system really is, it's like the rat. The rat race is like the rat. It's like the rat is stuck on the sticky paper, right? It's like white supremacy is stuck on this sticky paper, and it's doing everything to like wiggle its way off. And we're looking at it and say, look at the rat on sticky paper. Instead of doing what we should do, the rat actually will try to free itself from the sticky paper, even if it has to remove a limb. How many of y'all know that? Sometimes you get a mouse or something like that. I said a rat, but you understand the analogy, metaphor. Even a mouse will get stuck on a sticky paper. And if it hasn't been fully stuck on it and it can rip off a limb to keep on running around, it will do so. And this is what so-called white supremacy is really doing. Because see, a lot of people talk this white supremacy talk, but they don't talk it according to the real discipline of the ones who really have studied, articulated, documented, and put it within its factual and realistical parameters, so that once we study these things and understand them, we can really fight the good fight. But most just like these terminologies, it becomes like pop. It becomes like, it's like almost like where a certain level of black consciousness becomes like a slang. I call it black half consciousness. Right now, here's a lecture where Rachel Dolezale, she lectures students on the history of black hairstyles. And people say, what does she has to teach black culture? And yet we have fools running around, doing a lot of things that are basically showing they're not proud of their so-called natural African, part of their African Americanism, but this is actually a lynching right here. It's actually a media. Let me put this into context, right? A media, lynching, right? And when we just look at some of the hot button, topics and kind of issues right here, because many blacks reject the term African American. Now people say, well, you can't go around saying that you are white and get away with it. It's not getting away with it, but do you know what a free white person is? You see, in the savage mind, in the feeble mind, because they haven't studied it, and because they don't want to study it, that's what they call not just ignorance. It's one thing when people are ignorant. It's another thing when people are willfully ignorant. I don't want to know about that. I don't got to know about that. I don't got to such and such and such. So over these last couple of years since the Obama thing been going on, now even just the whole Obama thing, how can on one hand we say Obama's the first black, the first African American president? And it wasn't really him stating that so much. He only stated his story. And he told basically, you could say, based on what we know, at least there's some speculation, but basically the truth about who his mama was and who this African guy, African father. Others speculate other things, but we're not going to even go there right now. And in spite of all of that, I remember it was the same the NAACP. I'm not a fan of the NAACP. This is what I mean about the serpent kind of consuming itself. It's like when they talk about the deceiver, right? The deceiver and the deceived, both are in Jah's hands, the Almighty in God's hands, in the hands of truth and everything. I don't say she's the one who really has, in a sense, deceived herself. I would say people have deceived themselves. Because if you look at the topics and the issues that she has represented, right, within her, what she has done and everything. People talk about, she went to Harvard on a scholarship and she sued the university claiming to be, because she was white, because they're discriminating against her because she is white. And she says, well, she considers herself identifies with black. And we say, you can't have it two ways. You can't have it both ways, because if you try to do that, they're going to come out against you with the shotgun. So what's your response? If they come out against you with oh, you can't do nothing. So you've acquiesced to white supremacy. So why don't you shut the fuck up? I'm sure a lot of the probably white supremacists probably feel the same way too. You understand? But this was a test. This right here is a real kind of a media test. You know, it's almost like the same reason why they kind of, put Obama up as the ideal candidate. It's like a test press. This is like what they call predictive programming. There's another level of this that's very interesting too, because they ask her, are you a Caucasian woman? Right? Are you a Caucasian woman? Are you Caucasian? Are you African? And then I said, wait, it's like you're talking about apples and oranges. Now, some will say it's all fruit, but they're not all citrus fruit. You know what I'm saying? In other words, fruit are fruit, like humans are human, but you have citrus and they didn't ask her, are you a Caucasian woman or a negroid? You see, these are two different terms. Why didn't they say you're a European? Because even they know better that there are black Europeans, right? And there are also, mulatto, and many of the Europeans, really, if the truth be told, right, have black blood. This is why you had a madman like Hitler doing all these scientific studies, even on people who looked white, and said, we don't want no white or Jewish blood, in the people, because that is spoiling the race. And they were testing people who looked white to see if they were black. That's what Hitler was really doing. The whole thing about the Jews is a kind of a cover. You don't know about the black Germans and the history going back, all the way to the Saxon, the German, the black German queen. Okay, let me show you this here again. I'm not saying this is the same woman, because some nut jobs will probably think so. But I'm saying that there's a whole lynching, a media lynching. This is like a test that is going on to corral, keep people back to make you more proud to be a hyphenated American. You understand? To be a so-called African American. The term basically is meaningless. The only people that the term African American really is beneficial for is maybe some of the boule at the upper echelons who are already in the system and systemic, right? And maybe some of the so-called black people or the Africans from Africa. That can work properly with them and with those groups and some of the boule groups. But it really hasn't helped the so-called, the untalented 10th. Is that what they call it? The untalented 10th. This is how black people looked at their own people. So we have to just recognize what we're really up against. Let me show you this page here, because this was also interesting. This is the Daily Mail right here. This is the first installment, but I want to call it the lynching of Rachel, Dolezale. Right? It's the lynching of her, because at the same time, many so-called black women will wear blonde wigs and weaves and everything. We don't find no problem with it. Right? We find no problem when certain black women marry white men and still they champion black causes. Y'all say, well, they don't say that they are white. Okay. You got that right there. But then, how do we use this term black? How do we define this term black? Have we ever defined terms for ourselves, or we are being defined? And once again, we are being redefined. Now, here's the Trump thing, So American dream is dead, but I will bring it back. You know what I mean? Yeah, because basically he killed Cosby. You know what I mean? If you understand, within the media sense, he murdered that N-word right there. He's the one behind that. Now, look at this right here. Defiant race faker confronts her critics. Now, this is coming from the English paper. The English paper is usually like conservative and everything, but I noticed they've been using a lot of black, white, and on MSNBC. What's that thing called? On MSNBC or MSG. On MSNBC, Matt Lauer is interviewing her, right? And he is saying to her, right? Or he's asking her, are you Caucasian or African? Do you know those terms are not associative? They're not associative. Those are disassociative terms. The proper way, are you Caucasian or negroid? Are you Caucasian or mongoloid? Because see, those terms were developed by American white racists in America and also their Nazi brothers over in Nazi Germany and other racists over in England to really so-called purify the white race. Now, why did they want to purify the white race when a lot of the white people who they were seeking to purify from the white race, for all intents and purposes, could pass for women like this woman right here? In another article, they say she don't have no African or black blood in her going back as far as 1671. My question is, what about before 1671? Do you even know that there were black people ruling Europe and England and kings and queens on the throne of England? That's where they get the term black nobility. You don't understand that. No, you don't understand what Shakespeare's Othello and play was really about. No, you don't get that. It says, there are no medical witnesses to my birth. There's been no biological proof. She's related to her parents as she continues to insist she is black. Right? It's so interesting because y'all say that gay is the new black. You see what I'm saying? Y'all say that so-called homosexuals or sodomites are the new black. These are her two sons right here. Right? These are her two sons right here. And still, in spite of, they're doing this to these two black men. Are they not black? You know, are they black or are they not black? This is their mother. This is what they're doing to these two black men's mother. So what makes Obama so different? Right? So see this double standard. You don't recognize this right here is a test. Right. And I think really they recognize that black people have, I think done what they kind of expected. Now she admits that her hair is a weave despite posting pictures of hairdo claiming to be she was going natural. Here over here, exclusive investigation of Rachel Dolezale's roots reveals she has no black relatives dating back to 1671. Her ancestors came to the U.S. from Europe. Whoa, that's shocking. Because if her ancestors really came from Europe, it's shocking that she has no black relatives when black people ruled Europe. I'm not saying Africans. You know, I'm not going to say those terms. If we're going to call any correct term, let's call them Ethiopians or Moors. If we're going to use really any correct terms, Ethiopian or Moors or perhaps, what's the word they call, Syrian, the Negro. Right? You know, Negroes in the Bible. You know what I mean? It's an old word. It's a Latin word. This is what they used to describe Ethiopians, right? Originally and later when the Ishmaelites came up to describe the Moors, right? But she has no black relatives dating back to 1671. Why don't they post the evidence of this? The files, you know, they could put it up on the internet and you can download it and people can sort through it and see how far the investigation went. Right. But this is why is England so involved in this? Oh, look what just happened right there. You'll see what just happened to the page, right? You'll see how that page just kind of just flipped out, right? Just flipped out right in front of you. You know, maybe they're listening. Well, they should be listening because we have caught them in their racial fraud. And really, the one who is at fraud is the system, the media. The media is trying to corral people back into this black-white paradigm, right? On one level, they're talking about we all the human race. And then you hear news anchors say, are you Caucasian or African? No, you really meant to say, are you Caucasian or Negro? You see, why didn't they say, are you European or African? Because then she would say, I'm American. So see, they're playing these head games, mind games, you know, with the people. So when she says, I don't understand this term African American, I prefer black, many black people also prefer black. And if you really know the story of nature knowing no color line in America, going all the way back to so-called Europe, you know, and in Europe, there were black monarchs on the throne of the Christian kingdoms in Europe. The reason why there's very few monarchies in Europe is because there are very few black people ruling. This was not their thing. It was brought to them. And any diligent study of history will prove that particular fact. So what they're doing right here is almost like, in order to save their worldview, you know. So with one hand, they're saying that we all same people and multicultural and all of this. And over here, they're flipping it the other way because of what she's saying right here. Because they know that black people would have probably listened to some of what she put out, even though they would have recognized that she's either not black or fully black, but they would have maybe received what she's putting out. But that goes against the trend of the system. I don't know if she recognizes it or not. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. And besides, right, she seems to have been happily married, you know, to a, you see that page won't come back. So they canceled out that page right there, to a black man. And there's a double standard, you know, in this society. In fact, if you read the ISIS papers by Frances Cress Welsing, or if you read the works of her master teacher, Dr. Nellie Fuller Jr., you would know the proper context when we use the terms white supremacy. So in a sense, what's going on, you hear one's carelessly using this particular terminology in order to wear it down and make it have no or little to no significance. This was a way of kind of saying to, I thought at first black people, but I really think it's a way of saying to white people, don't come out of your corral, and to so-called black, African, American, Negroes, get back in your box. I think this was a way to even prep for the upcoming election season, because a lot of people are really becoming, you know, very dissatisfied, you know, with their hopes and dreams. I mean, after all, look, they had the first black president. They had the first African American president whose mama, right, I guess is as white as Rachel Dolezale.